Part 7, Section 3. Part 7, Section 3 for the videographers. All right, well, I trashed European gentry. Let's go back to European gentry. Look where it says letter C, European gentry. Somewhere in your fill in the blank notes there. Letter C, European gentry. Should be European gentries, wealthy and often royal, heavily influenced governments and cultural trends by holding political positions and patronizing the arts. That's another way you were considered elite if you went to the theater. Going to the theater. No, I can't go to the barbecue because I have to go to the theater because I'm the elite. The elites go to the theater. All right. Letter D, urban commercial entrepreneurs. I believe that's where we left off. In all major port cities of the world. This makes so much sense because where's all the big trading going on? These big, huge, honking ships are coming in from global destinations. If you own that area, you buy all the stuff off the ships. And then you jack the price up and you sell it. You're making a fortune there. That's what it's talking about, urban commercial entrepreneurs in all major port cities in the world. It all makes sense. All right. Number one, merchants amassed great wealth by buying and selling in port cities. We just went over that. Goods such as spices, nutmeg, I love nutmeg, came from the, which directions? North, south, east, or west? Where did nutmeg? East. And were transported to the west. All the spices are coming from the east, going to the west. And they're stopping at port cities and selling their stuff. Number four, in addition to the rise of new elites, some empires experienced a fluctuation. Fluctuation. Fluctuation in power of existing elites. These traditional political and economic elites are used to being able to influence the political leaders of their empire, but found it increasingly difficult to do so. All right, we're switching gears. We just got through talking about the new elites who have come in. All right, you know, the Manchus, the European gentry, the Creole. All right, now, over here in the side, put elites lose power. There are some elites who used to be elites. A big bag of used to be elites. They lose power. Write these down. Here's your big picture thing. Here's what we're going to be talking about. These are people who lost power. We just learned about people who gain power. Now we're going to lose about people who lose power. All right. Zamindars. Z-A-M-I-N-D-A-R-S. Remember, you're writing that just in the margin somewhere. Zamindars. Z-A-M-I-N-D-A-R-S. Remember, your title is ex-elites or something like that. Used to be elites. The Zamindars. Then a comma, nobility in Europe. Nobility in Europe. All right. Then the Daimyo. D-A-I-M-Y-O. D-A-I-M-Y-O. The Daimyo in Japan. We're going to find out the Daimyo. So those are three groups who used to have power. They used to be the elite, but now they're losing power. All right, let's go back to number 4A. 4A. We're going to talk about the Zamindars. 4A. Zamindars are in the Mughal Empire. Remember the Mughal Empire? The elites were the Zamindars, but we know they're about to be unelite here. Number 1, the Zamindars were the middlemen between the ruler and the ruled. They were the middlemen. You know, the king's up here, the peasants are down there. Kings up here, peasants down here. Zamindars are in the middle. Number 2, they perform the function of aristocrats. Aristocrats. That's Aristocrats. Aristocrats. They were the ones who collected the tribute from the peasants. Now, above tribute in parentheses, put taxes. So the Zamindars are the tax collectors of the Mughal Empire from the peasants, and were allowed to keep 10% for themselves. 10% for themselves. So you have the nobility, the emperor and all the people of the Mughal Empire. Then, like every other civilization, most people were peasants. 95% of the people were peasants. The Zamindars would go to each peasant and say, okay, you owe $100 to the Mughal Empire. Give me the $100. They're supposed to put $10 in their pocket and give $90 to the Mughal Empire. Well, what do you think happens? All of a sudden the Mughal Empire isn't getting all that much money. Give you kind of an example. A friend of mine owns, well, not a friend, an associate owns a parking lot right next to a stadium in another city. And he charges, I think, $10 a car to park there for whatever ball game's going on at the stadium. Well, he hires people to do that, to take the money. And at the end of the day, they bring him the money. And he was thinking, man, there's a whole lot more cars out there than that, where it's all cash. And the guy goes, nope, that's all there was. That's all there was. That's all there is. So he had one of his people sit across the road with binoculars and a pad and just count how many cars come in, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, all the money. And it was like $4,000 or $5,000. And all of a sudden, at the end of the day, the guy brings, okay, here's $300. That's all we had. He's putting all that other money in his pocket. And I'm talking about that, and he goes, what do you do about that? And this is kind of funny. He goes, I started hiring Christians to do it. I would find a good Christian to keep the game. And his thought behind it was, Christians don't steal as much. They're still going to steal. They're still human beings, but they don't steal as much. That's kind of the Zamindars. They're the parking lot monitors. They're getting the money from the peasants, supposed to give 90% to Mughal Empire, but they don't. All right. Number 4, tribute was paid in kind, K-I-N-D. And you should think, well, I don't know what that is. What is that? What is that? Look at it. Forms of crop, rice, pepper, or some other agricultural product. The peasants didn't have any money. They would bring their crops. If they owned $100 in taxes, they'd bring $100 worth of corn. Here's my tax money. That's what's called paying in kind. Paying in kind. Number 5, as with all aristocrats with local authority, Zamindars were a potential decentralizing force. Decentralizing. How can the Zamindars be decentralizing? The Mughal government is the centralized government. They're the boss. Well, the peasants are only dealing with the Zamindars. They don't deal. You need me?
She said tell you she wanted to see you.
Okay. All right. I'll be right back. Hold on. Okay, and we're back, and it's running. Sorry about that. Whenever Jackie wakes up and I'm not there, she has severe panic attacks. So the girls are in there now with her, and when she's asleep, that's when I can come out here and do that. When she starts rustling, I got to get back in there or things happen. All right. Zamindars. Okay. The decentralizing. The peasants are going to the Zamindars. They're never going to the Mughal people. So the Mughals are starting to think, hey, you peasants are starting to think the Zamindars running the show. We're the ones running the show, not the Zamindars. So the Mughal Empire is getting a little worried about the Zamindars. What could you possibly, what if you decided to get everybody together and revolt against the Mughals? That could be a problem. An example of this in Christianity, in Jesus' time, Jesus broke no Roman laws. That's why Rome couldn't do anything to Jesus. They brought him before Pontius Pilate, and he goes, I find no fault in this man. In other words, he broke no Roman laws. He broke Jewish laws. I'm not really care about Jewish laws. I'm Roman. He didn't do anything to it. But Jesus was a threat because all the Roman soldiers were standing around and watching Jesus, and he would start being Jesus, and these thousands of people would just follow him. And the Roman soldiers got worried because what if one day Jesus pointed to the Romans and said, "Sic 'em"? They would do it. That's exactly what the Mughals are worried about the Zamindars. What if the Zamindars get the peasants together and say, "Let's sic 'em. We can do it." So that's how the Zamindars had a decentralizing effect in the Mughal Empire. All right, number 6, revenues to the state began to drop. How come you think revenues to the state began to drop? Tax money going to the Mughal government began to drop. Why do you think that was? The Zamindars are putting it in their pockets because the Zamindars keeping much of the tribute for themselves. Peasants resented them for growing rich at their expense. Sometimes the Zamindars would charge the peasants more money than they had to charge them, just so the Zamindars could keep more money. Well, the peasants are seeing the Zamindars driving around in Lexus and on, F-150 pickups and all this stuff, and they're thinking you're just jacking up the price. I'm the one paying for that. My money should be going to the government, but it's not. It's going to your garage. All right, number 8. Akbar. Remember Akbar, the Mughal guy? Akbar reformed this system of taxation by requiring the peasants to pay in currency rather than agricultural products. Look at number 9. To do this, they were required to take their harvest to special state-monitored markets to sell for cash, in which they used to pay taxes directly to the government. Number 10, the Zamindars lost their power. The state became more centralized, and many Zamindars became servants of the state. Akbar was pretty cool. Akbar says, "All right, I'm sick of this. From now on, all peasants, you bring all your crops to this Mughal government-run market. We will buy your products in cash, and then we'll take our 10% right then." Basically, they just cut out the Zamindars. Zamindars lost their jobs. It was one of those things. Sometimes you get too greedy. The Zamindars had a good thing going. They were the elite. Now a lot of them have no money and actually become servants of the state. They have lost their elite status. All right, next part, we're going to nobility in Europe. So we're going to stop it here.